Hi, I'm Sam with the EV Report. I'm here today with Heather Hochrein with evmatch.com. And really great. Thank you so much for agreeing to have this interview with me today. Just to start off, for someone who's maybe never heard of it before, what is EV Match? What is your website all about? Tell me about that.
Absolutely. Great. Well, thanks for having me. So EV Match is a peer-to-peer network for electric vehicle charging. So what that means is really a community-based approach to EV charging. You could think of it like Airbnb for EV charging. So through our application, people can actually rent out their private charging stations to other EV drivers. And this enables more options for charging and reservable charging options, and actually can immediately create a bigger network of charging opportunities all throughout the country.
Okay. So if I have like a level 2 charger in my garage, for example, would I be able to use EV Match to like rent it out that way? Is that it?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
So the way it works, most EV drivers right now are charging at home. And so a lot of people are installing level 2 chargers, which are 240 volt charging stations, or even just a 240 volt outlet in their garage. And so through EV Match, those EV drivers can actually list their home charging equipment on our application and then rent it out to other drivers when they're not using it. And so what we found is a lot of EV drivers just charge their personal EV at night, and then those chargers are sitting idle, unused throughout the day. So
Mhm.
through our application, drivers can actually set a price and a time when their chargers are available and create a listing on our application. And then drivers can find a station that meets their needs through the app and use of a private charger with just a few quick clicks on the application.
Wow, that answered my next two questions like together. So
Yeah.
you've got the customer or the driver that has the need for the charge, and then you have the supplier, the person with the charger, and you do have an
Mm-hmm.
app. That's cool.
Yeah.
Is it available for iOS and for Android, or what's the status of
Yes.
that? Okay.
So we started with our web application, which is evmatch.com, that we released fairly recently in the last 6 months, our Android and iOS applications. So they are available for download on the iTunes App Store and Google Play. And so we certainly encourage EV drivers to download them. We are currently operating the network in California and Colorado as our first
Okay.
starting markets.
Okay.
But this is a very scalable solution, and so as we grow our company, we'll certainly expand throughout the country.
Compared to maybe something like PlugShare, which lists charging stations around a particular area, what's the difference between EV Match and PlugShare?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a couple of things. One, PlugShare aggregates all the public charging networks through their app, so it's really a charging location finder. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, the charge point stations that are at retail locations or the EVgo fast charging stations would be listed on PlugShare. And that's crowdsourced through EV drivers as a way to really kind of collect all that data together. There is also a component with PlugShare where people can list their home charging station. Where
Sure.
EV Match differs is that we actually enable payment processing and reservations. So we have this
Oh,
streamlined approach that enables that easy transaction for those private chargers. And right now, we actually are only listing private chargers on our application. And so what that means is all of our chargers are 100% reservable. So this is
cool.
pretty unique in that, folks who don't have home charging options like renters or multi-unit dwellers really need reliable charging access and guaranteed access. And so with EV Match, they can find a host that is near either their work or their home and then reserve that charger on a regular basis and ensure that they have access to that charger.
Okay, so they could do it like every week, or what if they want to use the same charger in the same area on a weekly basis with using a reservation? Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
exactly. So it's like, sort of like having a dedicated charger. If you rent the same one, like you said, every day, every week, every month. So having those few chargers that are near all the places you frequent most often, that's where EV Match is very useful.
Was there really you know, uh, high demand for something like this? What was the reason for you and your company for
Yeah.
making something like this?
Yeah.
For making EV
So
Match?
the demand is there and growing. So there's certainly a demand for increased charging access. And so that's one of the major barriers to EV adoption right now, is that a lot of folks just don't have access to charging if they don't have home charging. So we found that renters and multi-unit dwellers really are often opting out of an EV because they don't feel confident that they'll have a place to charge on a regular basis. And so my team and I, we actually started this out of a graduate research project. We found that really this was a major barrier that could be addressed through this peer-to-peer marketplace, where we can bring in all these privately owned assets and offer those to EV drivers who don't have home chargers.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Really, that's kind of like fills in all of the extra areas for people.
Yeah, and I'll also add, initially with EV sales, most EVs are higher priced vehicles relative to kind of your average vehicle, and so a lot of folks buying EVs did have or do have single family homes that have the ability to plug in at home. But as we have these lower cost EVs coming onto the market, and we have a used EV market developing, and we have these lower cost long range EVs, we're going to see a shift in the demographic for EV purchasers. And a lot of those individuals want to buy an EV and live in an apartment or a condo, park on the street, for example. And so we see EV Match as an optimal solution for serving that new demographic of EV drivers.
Okay. What do you think, what is the future of transportation? Is it 100% electric, like, internal combustion vehicles will just go away in the future? Or will it be a blend of the two?
Yeah. So I think it depends on the time scale. But I do think that we need to shift to a largely electrified transportation sector, really, in order to meet our climate action goals. And so I think for light duty vehicle transportation, we will see majority electric vehicles in the future. I know I just looked at the International Energy Agency expects 125 million EVs globally by 2030. And that's compared to right now, we have about 3 million. So really, we're looking at this exponential growth in electric vehicles. Now that's at the light duty space. I think with heavy duty, so trucking, we will see some electrification. There may be some other technologies such as fuel cell or natural gas. Mm-hmm. But I certainly think that in the light duty space, we'll see really massive levels, really, really high levels of electrified vehicles.
Okay. Well, that's...
and then...
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, please.
I was going to say further to that, I think we also will see this, the shared autonomous electric future, which, sure. I think a lot of folks have done research on and talked about. As we have less personal vehicle ownership and we then have autonomous vehicles, we're going to have these shared fleets where we have more and more ride-hailing services. People are less tied to their personal vehicles. And we actually have these autonomous shared electric vehicles that really, if managed well, can reduce the impacts of the transportation sector and provide some significant improvements to quality of life as well.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people about this, and it just doesn't seem like an internal combustion autonomous vehicle is even like technically possible. The space and everything that has to go into it seems like electric is the only way.
Yeah,
to make it work.
I think electric will be the platform for autonomous vehicles. There's just so many reasons that makes sense, but also in terms of the economics of an electric vehicle, because there is a high upfront cost and a low operating cost for EVs, they really make sense economically when they're used really used consistently and have high miles mm-hmm. annually. So that use case is really optimal for a shared vehicle, like a vehicle in Uber or Lyft, for example. So if we are looking at this shared mobility future, then the economics of electric vehicles really makes sense. And so that could really, the shared and autonomous vehicles could actually drive the further adoption of electrified vehicles for those economic reasons.
Wow, I learned a lot. I thought I don't know. I didn't even know that you had an app. That's great. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much
yeah.
for.
We launched it. Well, we released our service in April of 2017,
Mhm.
so just over a year ago.
Cool.
And then we released our iOS app in January, and then our Android app shortly after that. So we're still pretty early, and we're always looking for more users. So we're excited to have folks learn about EV Match from this interview.
Well, thanks so much, and I will absolutely check that out. And you know, I hope that it expands soon. So thank you so much, Heather.
Great. Yeah, thanks. Take care.